going into the Q&A for Drive and Disciplined Cubed. Elise, questions or thoughts that you have?
So, I mean, I think these are great concepts for anyone in a company to use. When you're talking of like someone in leadership in a company looking to really get buy-in from team members, how would you go about that type of conversation?
You're supposed to give me a simple, easy question. I mean, it's magical. It's almost like what you're asking is, how do you raise children? I don't know. Like, that's complicated. But, Mark, you've raised 7 of them. I know, and every single one of them are different. And so, I mean, it's partly the personality. The personality will help you a lot. Partly getting their life vision and connecting that in. And so understanding, the motivation. Partly getting them, for sure to join EC2. As an employer, you can't pay for somebody else's EC2. Now, you can put a bonus infrastructure in place where based on performance, they get, a whopping 20%, a whopping 20% bonus. What some companies are doing now is they're giving a $40 a month bonus for whatever. $20 is if they do the actions, and then $20 is if they get the result. So typically employees, not typically the best at investing into themselves. Like if they get a raise, how much of that gets invested back into themselves? Typically not much of anything. So they're not typically really good at investing back into themselves. And so building it into the structure of their comp plan is what I would recommend. So you can't pay for somebody else's EC2 membership. I want to with my 5 grandkids, but I can't. People have to pay their own money to get in. So now what I'm doing is I'm helping my 7-year-old grandson start his own company and make money at 7 years old by owning his own company, and then he can invest into EC2 on his own. So I don't know if any of that helped at all, Elise, or not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can just picture leaders in companies wanting to broach the subject and probably be met with kickback or confusion with team members. And so, maybe it's just more over the next couple of weeks, if that occurs, having case studies done to assist them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they can participate in this without being part of EC2. I mean, they can participate in the different roles, so they don't have to be part of EC2 to take on a role within an ARRT, buddy system or an ARRT role. They can do that, just directly. Michael, questions what you would like to accomplish?
I guess I liked the last question from Elise because that's usually a challenge. So I gathered the idea of, tying it back into their life vision is probably in their goal or is the key to it. I actually even touched the subject with, my employee yesterday and got a lot of pushback. Well, I don't want to change. I'm the person I am, and I'm like, I'm not asking you to change by any means. I'm asking to, look at a bigger global picture. But it was it was kind of almost a little heated discussion, just over, coming to one of these and listening in to learn some of this. So, it's just a really personal experience, I guess.
Yeah, and that's where, that's kind of the difference between adopting children and, when they're older, adopting or having stepchildren when they're older versus raising them on your own. If you can get them from birth, then you can go ahead and raise them. But with 7 kids, I can tell you not all of mine are real receptive to, change and, growth either. It's the most intriguing thing about human beings. Beth, what would you like to accomplish?
Question. I don't have any questions.
I think I know what Beth would want to ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
So would you say that a lot of, when Elise talked about buy-in, how much of that is based off of the level of care? And so maybe how do we approach it as, how do we get them to care on a deeper level than they currently do? It goes a lot back to the care model we talked about yesterday, which I love.
What do you love most about it?
Oh my gosh, it was like I was struggling for so long to figure this out, and it was like, oh, there it is. Everything I could ever think of and know to help me get on track. And that was my awakening for my internalization.
Help us understand what was significant about it. Like it's not concrete what you're saying.
So in my mind, when I saw that, the core of ownership comes from a lot of factors, but a big, heavily input is how much you care. It goes on the foundations of all of that. And when you map out that there's several levels of how much someone can care, it also shows a pathway of how you can take more ownership. It gives someone a pathway of how can they grow, how can they succeed. And most people don't have a pathway or don't understand how to create one. And I think that right there in itself could do that for people and help them build a pathway on that. So that's more concrete?
Yeah, I think that's a lot better. So how do we go ahead and help people? Internalize the caring model the way you did?
I built a bridge. Maybe helping them build a bridge. I poured my heart and soul into AMP and the foundation, and I built the bridge with that. So build the bridge with them to something that they care about. I don't even think I got it as far as my life vision, but I connected to something that I care about.
Questions, anyone? Or thoughts?
Thank you.
For what?
Why are you thanking me?
Yes, I am.
Why?
Well, I wasn't a part of the conversation yesterday, but it sounds cool.
I've been looking for probably 15 years on how to measure dimensional movement from one dimension to another. And in business, it's easy. It's 100,000 to 200,000, 250, 250 to 500,000, million to 1 to 2.5, 2.5 to 5. So that's easy. That I've known for a long time. But how do you go ahead and have dimensional ownership? How do you have dimensional awareness or awakening? How do you have dimensional care? How do you have dimensional work? That's eluded me. So it's cool when Nicole said she's been looking for something for a long time. I'm like, is it 15 years, Nicole, that you've been looking? Because, man, I know what you're saying. I've been looking for this for a long time. And so when Nicole said there's a pathway, and most people get stuck in dimension 3 or 4 in caring. And a lot of people get stuck in going beyond dimension 1. Cheryl, questions, thoughts you have?
caring, what does that mean? Because it can mean different things to different people.
And that's what that model does. It defines it.
Okay.
Yeah, like it.
Like for me, showing I care is tasks, accomplishing tasks. You know, doing stuff for my husband. You know, that's my level of care.
Right, and that's what's complicated in the love languages based on personalities and a lot of other factors. People think that they're caring for somebody else, but actually they're just caring for themselves.
Okay.
So I don't know what it was, probably 10 years ago when we had 4 teenagers. Rosanna was very, very upset at the teenagers, which kind of transferred being upset at me. And she and I were having a conversation, and she got really upset. And she's like, you know, the kids just don't appreciate me. They take advantage of me. They just, you know, I do all this stuff for them, and they don't do anything. Like they're not. Oh, and she was so frustrated. And I looked at her and kind of said, that's interesting, honey. So you do all this stuff for them. Why are you doing it? And she's like, well, because I love them and I, you know, want to serve them and I want to love them and because I'm their mom and da-da-da. I said, that's one way to think about it, honey. Maybe you're doing all of these things not for their benefit, but, honey, for your benefit. Maybe you're doing them selfishly. We didn't have the WIFM white paper then. She didn't hit me, but I could tell she was not a happy camper. She's like, fine. I mean, if that's the case, then the reason you work and put food on the table is for your own self, to feel good about yourself as a husband and a father. And I looked at her, kind of cocked my head, smiled, and said, you know what, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying there. That made her even more mad. Because there's a self-awareness that what we think we're doing for caring for other people often is very selfish. It's not for other people. It's for our own benefit. So read the white paper on caring. It's a 5-page white paper, so it's really simple and easy. If you're part of EC2, you get the Q&A on that, and there's, I think, over 50 pages, going on 50 pages of Q&A that really get into the different nuances. It's just really, really cool. A project. It's just neat. Anyone else have anything else that you'd like to accomplish today?
Well, I was going to ask, you know, how do you push that person to the next level on the care model? You say people get stuck usually 3 to 4, some not even past 1. Do you push them the same way you said?
Well, and that's where, you know, great question. Email that question to me. I'll pass it on to the EC2 committee. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you can put salt in the oats. That's been something I've been working on for 8 years now. What's the model for putting salt in the oats? Because different horses like different salt. And so it's like, So it's based on personality. But you ask that question in EC2, you know, the community will come together and really dig into that. I have a feeling they'll come up with some really cool answers and models on that. So I do believe, like for each of my 7 kids, I learned at very young ages, each one of them are motivated by different things. So what causes one of my children pain will give another one of my children pleasure. What will discipline one, actually the other one takes it as a reinforcement to their behavior. And as a parent, you don't want to reinforce bad behavior. As an employer, you don't want to reinforce, bad behavior. And so if we don't understand what salt to put in and when and how, it's a great question, Nicole. I don't know the answer to it, but EC2 community, I think they'll figure it out. Anyone else have anything else? All right. If you have any questions, connect with your art mentor. Don't forget to pass this along to your 2 art buddies. Always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.